Welcome to part two of How to Navigate Grief with Tiffany Papageorge, who's a certified grief and loss specialist. We are discussing grief in all its forms. Now, Tiffany talks about grief being any experience of loss. So, whether you're grieving someone who's passed away, or you're grieving the loss of a relationship, perhaps a friendship, or maybe you're struggling with other changes in your life, which of course includes the big change of menopause. Menopause is actually a grief experience. It's a letting go of one way of being and transitioning into another. Now, even if on one level you're really happy about the change that's happening in your life right now, or it was a change that you just knew was for the best, but there are aspects of it that are still hard for you, this episode is definitely for you. And I do just want to let you know here that Tiffany and I are going to be holding an online grief retreat to support you in moving through a transition in your life. Moving through any transition in your life that you may be facing so that you can let go and find peace and stability. So if this is something that you're interested in, please do reach out by email and we'll let you know the full details once it's all organized. Okay, so in part one, Tiffany introduced us to the first two steps of her four-step process of how to move through grief or a loss experience. Step one is acknowledgement, and step two is expression. In this episode, we're going to be exploring the last two steps. Step 3 being action, and step 4, reconnection. So those 4 steps are acknowledgement, expression, action, and reconnection. With that, let's move on with the show. Welcome to the Soulful Menopause Podcast. Discover how to transform the chaos of menopause into vibrant health and a soulful life you'll love. I'm Sally Love, natural nutritionist, hypnotherapist, and soul wisdom coach. I want you to experience a soulful menopause that will guide you into the best years of your life.
The third step is an action step. And an action step is different than expressing. So a journal is an expression step. Mm-hmm. But writing a letter to your, dead dad is an action step.
Okay, yeah.
Okay. So they're different. An action step is something that comes to you, and you can do many different action steps. You might need to do action steps periodically or seasonally or every year or whatever that is, but they come to you and it's like, I'm ready to do this now. So an action step is this is probably I'm using a very benign example just to kind of give you an idea. Mm-hmm. But like my kids loved their pacifiers more than anything in the world. They loved their pacifiers, and there came a time where it's like really embarrassing. Like they just never wanted to get rid of them. All three of them never wanted to get rid of them. So I came up with this idea that we talk about it. We acknowledged it was time. We expressed our feelings about it for a long time, probably months, maybe 2-3 months. And then I built on a calendar the day that we were going to let them go, and we were going to go and bury them in our yard. Okay. That was an action step. Mm-hmm. So we've acknowledged, we've expressed, now we're going to go in the backyard, we're going to bury them. When they came back from preschool that day, I had planted a tree, a bush, something that would grow big, that was, beautiful, that they could still look at and see. And it was there. I'm Greek and we call a pacifier a papilla, and we
Oh,
shortened it to pia, so it's their pia plant and their pia tree and whatever. And so they have these things that grew. Okay, so that is an action step. An
mhm.
action step could be going to a coastline and writing a letter in a bottle and letting it go to them. An action step can be anything you need it to be. Anything you need it to be. A colleague of mine, her client and dear friend, her husband left her for another woman, and she kept one of his shirts and slept with it. That was first. And then later she had an action step where she framed it because she just needed to see it but didn't need to sleep with it or touch it. And then after a long period of time, she needed to burn it. And then after a long period of time, she needed to bury the ashes. All of those are action steps. And so, you will know what it is and you will know what to do. And it's really powerful because beyond a funeral that's kind of a collective thing that we do, this is your own thing.
Yeah,
And
because we all experience, even though we might all be going through the same grief, we're all, and we might, like, there may be a whole load of us that have lost one person, the same person in our lives. Everybody is going to experience that differently,
yes,
react to it differently.
yes, yes. So grief is completely universal and completely individual.
Hmm.
So it's both. And nobody can tell you how to do it, and nobody can tell you how to go through it. You do it in your own way. There is a process, and the process really helps, but your process is your own, and you make it your own. All of these things I'm sharing, you make your own. Um, and your wise sage woman knows the way.
Yeah, absolutely.
When our little self is saying, I can't do this, I just can't do this, I can't do this, our wise sage woman knows the way.
Mhm.
And when we get through expressing, you know, all that other stuff and we lean into our sage woman, she'll show us the way.
Yeah.
And the only way through grief is through.
Yes.
And it's that you got to go, it's just through. And there is no line. There is no, I'm giving you these 4 steps, but honestly, any day, any time, any moment of a day, any second, it's a spiral. You may be in action step and need to go right back to acknowledgement and expressing. It just comes around differently. So you may do all this work on your grief, and then something comes along in your life. And I'm using you as an example, Sally, or even
Yeah,
me as with
sure.
my dad. But you go through all these stages. We haven't gotten to the fourth one yet, but you go through it, and then you think, okay, good, okay, it's all done. And then before you, like without even, there's something that comes up in your life where you think, oh, I wish I could tell my mom this, or I wish she was here. She would love this, or my dad, if he could only da da da. And
Hmm.
then all of a sudden, you're now grieving this moment of not having them.
Yes.
See, so it comes back around, but it's the nature of it. And I think sometimes, as in all of nature, we've removed ourselves. We've we've stepped out of nature of it. But again, yeah, it's a the nature of grief is that it just is a part of it all. And so the last step after action step is reconnection. And reconnection is the part of the process where it's settled in our bones a bit. And we are now able to reconnect to everything in our life that is good, and also reconnect with what we've lost in a new way.
Hmm. Can you give me some examples of that?
Yeah.
Some examples of that, yeah.
An example of reconnection is, I think it's when we are kind of more consciously walking through the gate of the new. It's really depicted in my book. You really see reconnection at the end, where the character Joey, this little boy, is seeing the world through new eyes,
Hmm.
um, in a sense. So here's what happens, and it's really funny because we're in this incredibly polarized world right now. And we forget that polarization is just two sides of the same line and that we are all connected, whether we know it or not. But the great equalizer to the polarization, the great equalizer in the world is our pain. And everyone feels it, everyone has it, everyone experiences it. And so when we look at it through this eye of reconnection to the world after what we have been through, and we go through these steps and stages, it opens up a different depth to your empathy.
Hmm.
Because once we allow ourselves to go through it and really honor it, really deeply honor our experiences, then all of a sudden we are able then to see another. And it doesn't matter if we agree with them, don't agree with them. We're able to see another person in our life, in our sphere, that is hurting. And we may not know what they're going through. We may not have experienced it just the same way, but we've experienced pain. So we know pain. And that changes us. And so in the end of the book, the color is completely different than the beginning of the book, because Joey in the book sees everything with a depth and a range and uh, um, and a fullness that wasn't quite there before his loss happened.
Mm. So that's the reconnection.
Yes, the
Yeah.
reconnection is a deepening into life experience.
Is it the new beginning?
It is. It's I'm being not as clear as I'd like to be. The new beginning, yes, it in a sense it is, but I think it comes with, you are now a deeper person for what you've gone through. You are now a changed person for what you've gone through. You are now in maybe in some ways more deeper, more dimensional. You are different for what you have lived through and that you're still standing through and that you have grown through. And that reconnection with life after the experience that you have had, it it introduces you to a deeper part of self.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's sort of like I just loved when you were talking about burying your children's pacifiers and then planting a tree on top. That just remind me what we were talking about earlier about that cyclical part of nature. Something new growing from
Yes.
something that has passed.
Yeah,
Mm.
something that is, and it was really interesting is going through that process with my kids. They never asked for one again.
Yeah.
There was a couple nights where they might say, "Oh, I miss my Pia," but they were ready.
Hmm.
They had gone through the stages. They had gone through that step. And of course, we miss what we don't have. Of course, we miss what we've lost. That's a part of it too,
Yeah. Yeah.
you know? And it's okay. All feelings are okay. Everything you feel is okay.
Mm.
To give yourself the permission. How many times have we been at a funeral even, and somebody will say, "I'm so sorry," and they're crying. "I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry for crying." And I'm like, "No, it's okay. You shouldn't be crying." Like, It's all
Quite
right.
normal. You would be willing to
Yeah,
do bone crying, or well, maybe not so, but
yeah.
people
I mean,
experience it differently. But sometimes it comes later or whatever. But yeah, there was one part in the ceremony where I was just uncontrollably sobbing, and I felt fine to just be in that space at that time. Luckily, I'd read my poem by then.
thank goodness. And by the way, tears are really a gift. So don't be afraid of tears. Tears are amazing. There is a natural tranquilizer in tears.
Mhm.
So if you cry and you get really tired, and think of babies crying themselves to sleep,
Yes.
it's a healing force in tears. It's amazing. And
Yeah.
also grief, by the way. Now that I'm thinking about it, grief is like having the equivalent, energetically, the equivalent of a full-time job. So if you're tired when you are grieving, that is also a part of the healing process. That your body just gets really tired. So please honor it. Please honor that if you're tired, lay down, um, and let yourself just be tired.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And I like to think when with crying as well, there's energy leaving the body. It is a letting go. It's the water overflowing and it's just letting it out of the big cup that is just overflowing with all of the emotion and everything else that's going on tied up with it. And it's like just releasing it. It's, it that feels very therapeutic to me for sure. I was going to ask about, before we move on to talking about your book, My Yellow Balloon, because I really, really want to hear about that. There's one other thing. Well, actually, I've got two other things here, but I could talk to you for ages on this. But you mentioned anticipatory grief.
Yes.
So that's, I suppose, let's say, for example, my mum she had dementia for a while, and then there was a period of time when we knew she was in the process of dying, which probably took a few months. Um, and sometimes for some people, it can be a really long process. You could have your parent who is in their 90s and you're thinking, well, it's going to be probably some time in the next 5, 10, maybe even 15 years, so there is that anticipatory grief there. With the 4 steps that you shared, can somebody still go through that when that actual process hasn't happened? Do you see what I mean? It's like
Yeah,
they're still going through a grief, even though it's anticipatory grief. Are these steps the same?
okay. When you're anticipating somebody going, let's just say hypothetically, it's you kind of are in a natural grieving process. And that I have a girlfriend, for example, who when her dad died, she'd grieved so much, through so many years that when he died, she grieved, but it wasn't as intense as I think it might have been if it was sudden. Um, but again, it could have been as intense. Everyone's different and everything is different. I think that the stages, or this, I should say, the steps apply when you go acknowledging and expressing and acknowledging and expressing. So here's an example. Over the course of the last um, 3 years, I've lost all my mom's sisters and my dad and my stepdad. And it's an interesting time in life, right? It's like your pillars are crumbling to the pillars that have held you up and all this time. Now all of a sudden it's like, okay, now it's my turn to be the pillar, and it's a weird feeling. Um, but I didn't know they were all going to die like dominoes. I had no idea, although they were, in different stages of illness or whatnot. So I collage and I paint a little bit, and write a lot of I write a lot of things. I write a lot of poetry. So I've been over the course of these years, I have one big canvas that I keep adding to and using it as an expression step of, either I'll, collage my poetry or different art, or I paint different papers that just with colors that I'm feeling, and then I collage those later. And so, it's a process for me. I don't know that it's fully my action step. It's just a way of expressing my feeling of anticipating them all being gone. And my mom's still with us, but it's a way for me to process. I think that anticipatory grief is something that starts in childhood. We all fear our parents dying. Um, there were times in my childhood I feared growing up. That was an anticipatory grief for my childhood. Um, Anticipatory grief happens in relationships often when a relationship is dying, but you're still like, my son had it for a bit with his girlfriend that he just broke up with. It can happen in all kinds of ways. It doesn't necessarily even need to be around death. It can be anticipatory grief around the environmental issues we're facing, anticipatory grief in America right now with, our government changing so drastically. Um, there's these are the things that we anticipate. We're not sure how they're going to happen, but we know there's going to be a loss at the end of it on some level, or we fear that loss. Again, we don't know. It's coming or not or whatever. So I think I would stick with acknowledgement and expression. And if there's an action step, like maybe there is something that you need to mark in, like, let's just say you're anticipating your mom going. Um, Maybe an action step would go to your favorite park that she took you to as a kid, and just write your feelings down and express there. So I think these steps are valuable at any stage of what you're going through at any time, because you can make them your own in that moment, and there's process to follow, and it's healing. So yeah, I guess as I'm thinking about it, yes, sorry, that was a long answer to a short question, but I do believe there's ways to do that. Then is reconnecting just happens. You don't have to actually like, okay, I'm going to reconnect right now. Like it happens because you are stepping forward in a way with new eyes, with a new being inside of you, a new sense of being inside of you.
Yeah. Can it be as simple as, because like just today is the first time that I felt I've reconnected with my life after
Mm.
everything that's been going on. It's like, oh, okay, right. Work and what is my life about? What am I doing? Like, it sort of feels like I've been doing a reconnection with that today for sure.
Yeah, I mean, those little reconnections for sure. Well, I shouldn't say little, that's a big reconnection where when the dust settles and the people go home and the casseroles aren't being dropped off anymore and you're stepping into your life. When my grandmother died, I don't live where I grew up, and I went back to her funeral. I was very close to her, and I just remember like getting out of, the Uber and coming up to my door and having my suitcase and was about to open the door. And I just had this sense that, ooh, when I cross over this threshold, I will be walking into my life without her.
Mm.
And it felt like such a line of demarcation for me that I hesitated, and I just had to breathe, had to cry a minute, had to say something to her. and then how to find her inside of me so that when I walked over the threshold, I would be walking without her physically, but spiritually, not inside of me.
Hmm.
And that's when then I consciously walked with her in a different way over
Yeah.
that.
So she's still present, but just
Yeah.
in a different way.
Yeah.
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 Yeah. Energy never dies as well. That's the thing.
That's true.
It just moves into another way of being. So that energy is still present.
It does. And if you think about it, let's think about it. We're all old enough to have at least one breakup in our life,
Yeah.
you know? And many of them that needed to happen for whatever reason. But each person that you come in contact with, whether it's an old boyfriend, whether it's an ex-husband, whether it is an old teacher, whether it is, you know, you may not see those people anymore. They may have died, they may not have died, they may just not be in your life anymore. Um, and all of those are loss experiences, but each one of them is a part of you in some way.
Yeah.
Each one of them has added to who you are and in your growth and in your experience. And so I think that connection is in different ways with different people at different times, and yet it informs us and it shapes us as we shape them. So yeah, I think it's interesting. There's a poem I would love to read that kind of has something to do with this, and
Oh, yes.
can I read
Yeah, absolutely. Please
it?
do.
Okay. It's by a man by the name of Albert Huff-Stickler. And I
Great
love
name.
his his name just in and of itself is so beautiful. Albert Huff-Stickler.
I
Uh,
love it.
don't you love that? And this is from something called Wanda, the Walking Wounded, and it's called The Cure. And this poem, The Cure, I love this poem. Okay, here it goes. We think we get over things. We don't get over things. Or say, we get over measles, but not a broken heart. We need to make that distinction. The things that become part of our experience never become less a part of our experience. How can I say it? The way to get over a life is to die. Short of that, you move with it. Let the pain be pain, not in the hope that it will vanish, but in the faith that it will fit in, find its place in the shape of things, and be then not any less pain, but true to form. Because anything natural has an inherent shape and will flow towards it. And a life is as natural as a leaf. That's what we're looking for. Not the end of a thing, but the shape of it. Wisdom is seeing the shape of your life without obliterating, getting over a single instant of it.
That's beautiful. Yeah, and really reflects what you were just saying before that. And what comes to mind for me is that, like you were saying, all the breakups we've had and people that have come and go from our lives, and we've had some positive experiences with some, and we've had what we would call negative experiences with others, challenging ones, that they're all gifts, aren't they?
They
They're
are.
all gifts. And so we're carrying all of these beautiful gifts with us that come from everybody we've come into contact with.
Yes, and in fact, I just saw something different with your sage woman. So you have your jewels of wisdom, but you have your gifts also
Yeah.
that are a part of that journey. Um, so um, yeah, each one of them is you'd never want to be without them.
Yeah, yeah. Because even from some, I've had some really, some really challenging times, as we all have. And but yet, when I look back, I think, what, I went through a really awful time. Let's say, for example, when I had domestic violence, absolutely awful time. But wow, I learned a lot from that as well. So I grew as a person through that experience. It was an awful experience that I wouldn't wish on anyone, but it also gave me the opportunity, and it is an opportunity because we can react in different ways to things. It gave me the opportunity to grow as a person, and that was with self-confidence and self-esteem, etc. So yeah, that's a gift. I see that as a gift in that I gave to myself from that challenging situation.
Yes, and when you go through such devastating times and you come through the other end, and like you spoke of confidence, you spoke of self-esteem. Um, yeah, it's like in any terrible thing that we go through and we come out the other end and we're still standing. Um, and we see our resiliency. It's powerful.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Our strength, our um, yeah, we've been through hard things. We're
Mm-hmm.
gonna go through more hard things. Uh, but we're still standing. And
Yes.
that's important to know that. And it's important also, I want to say, if you are out there and you are listening to this and you are grieving, and it's so easy to hole up and go very internal and go inside, um, please, do that sometimes, but force yourself to go out in community too, because grief, the ancient cultures all around the planet, grief was not a solitary thing. It was a community thing.
Yeah.
It was a community thing. And we want to be out of isolation and into community. That is where the magic happens.
Mm-hmm.
It
Mm-hmm.
really is. So, yes, we need to go inward sometimes, but it's really easy to do that when you're grieving and just close down. And I just encourage you to be with your loved ones, your people, your community, your circle, whatever that is.
Yeah. Yeah. It was probably about 4 days or so before my mum's funeral, and I just went to a comedy improvisation group that I belong to, and I hadn't been for a while because I've been with mum and all everything else, and I just went, and people were like, "Wow, I can't believe you're here." And I said, "Well, I think this is the best therapy there is," you know. Which sort of also brings me back to my final question for you before we move on to My Yellow Balloon, your book. What do we do with guilt if somebody is listening to this and they are feeling guilty about moving on, about laughing or having lightness around a time when there is tremendous grief? What would you have to share on that?
Oh, I have a couple thoughts. I also want to talk about guilt really quickly, just to acknowledge that there may be people that feel guilty they didn't do something, say something, um, do it the right way, oh, if they could just do it differently with it, that kind of guilt as well. So, your kind of guilt that you're talking about, where feeling guilty of living, let's just put it out there, feeling guilty of living. This is how I see it. Life keeps lifing. And when you are in a moment where something hits you as funny, or you have a minute, a moment of joy in the pain, you know, um, it's like, picture a storm, a really, really bad storm. There was one here the other night where it was sheets and sheets of rain, and they were making my daughter play lacrosse. And so I was out of her lacrosse game, and it was just sheets of rain coming down. But every once in a while, there would be a reprieve, and it would just pitter patter a little bit, just a teeny tiny bit. and then it would just come down really forcefully again. So I think it's like that. I think if you're having a moment of joy, or you go to a movie and you're laughing, or you are with a friend and they say something funny, or you just feel happy for a minute or two or an hour or a day, it's okay. There's nothing to feel guilty about, because you still are grieving. You still feel the pain of it. You still it's still with you. You still miss them. And that was really funny.
Yeah.
And so I think it's about giving yourself permission to be where you are when you're there. And to know that that sheet of rain is going to come flying in any second. Enjoy where you're at. Enjoy it while it's there. And when it's not there, lean into what you're feeling. Lean into it. If you're feeling terrible, lean into it. Let it just be what it is. Um, Live this life. My advice is live it fully, whatever it is. And just be with it. If you are feeling guilt because of something you did or didn't do, can I just tell you that you did the best you could with what you had in that moment. Yeah, hindsight is brilliant. Hindsight's amazing. We don't always get hindsight, but I just want you to know in your heart of hearts that you did the best you could with what you had. Even if it wasn't your best, even if you were tired and cranky and whatever it was, just know that that's all you had at that moment. That was, you didn't have any more reserves at that moment. And give yourself grace, and know that that other person didn't always give you their 100% best either, because we're human. So give the whole situation grace, and forgive yourself. There's nothing that you did wrong, or yes, sure, whatever. Maybe it could have been better, but there was still love there. And just be gentle with you. If you're grieving anything right now, be gentle with yourself. Be kind to yourself. Be loving to yourself. Nurture yourself, which brings me to eating and brings me to nourishment. Um, for whatever reason, and not in large quantities or anything, but dark chocolate is an amazing antidote to grief. It's really good when you're grieving. There's something in it that's very, very helpful to your body. You probably know more about that, Sally, than I do. I just know it's good. It's kind of like, when Harry Potter, where they're giving them chocolate when the Dementors come, I'm like, yes, that's exactly what they need. Oh, so in moderation, of course, but
Yes.
yes, dark chocolate's good. Why is that, Sally? Do you know why that is?
Well, it does contain some good quantities of magnesium, which is really calming. So it's really good for that. It's got some good antioxidants in it. So yeah, there are quite a few things about chocolate that are actually quite good. I'm just trying to think off the top of my head more, but yeah, no, but it has to be the dark chocolate. It can't be dairy milk stuff or anything like that. It has to be really good, high quality cacao
Yeah.
solids. Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah, it has to be that kind of chocolate, not the really great Cadbury eggs.
no, exactly. Yes.
Yeah. Yes. But it does, I mean, it is really good for you. And so that is something to think about. But also, if you're grieving, the body holds grief in the lung area, in the lungs.
Yes. Yes.
And so it's important, if you're grieving, to make sure, like if it's cold outside, to wear a scarf,
Mhm.
to make sure you're covered there, to make sure that you're protecting your lungs, whatever that means to you, because they're very susceptible when you're grieving.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
you're very, like, so anyway, just be very cognizant of your lung area, um, and, and just
And
be,
breaths.
Yeah,
deep breaths.
deep
That's
breath.
really wonderful because when we're grieving or go through any stress, we can get really shallow with our breaths. And actually, some really long, slow, deep breaths helps to calm your nervous system down, especially if you're feeling a lot of anxiety with it all as well. It just really helps to regulate your nervous system. And it can simply be even just 3 breaths. And I always say, breathe in as slowly and as much as you possibly can, hold it for a few seconds, and then breathe out really long and slow, and longer and slower than you did when you were breathing in. So your breath out is longer than your breath in. And sometimes you only need to do that like about 3 or 4 times, and you've come out of anxiety. It can be that powerful.
It is that powerful. And it's also really lovely. So if you don't know, some people literally forgotten how to belly breathe. Every baby knows how to do it. So a belly breath is, if you can't find it and you're used to shallow breathing, it's really hard to find if you're sitting up. So if you lay on the floor and then you practice breathing into your belly, that would be really, really helpful for you. Um, yeah.
Yeah.
So I would, I would, I would do that. And when you breathe in and do it, just like Sally said, a long inhale, hold it, and then have a longer exhale. When you do that, imagine breathing in whatever it feels like: love, compassion for yourself. Breathe in something you need in that moment, and hold that inside of you. And then breathe out anything you don't need: anxiety, stress, pain, any of that.
Perfect. Perfect. So, just to wrap things up, then, I want to just have a chat with you about your book, My Yellow Balloon, because you have mentioned it a few times and it
Yeah,
is
it's hard for me not to. I'm so
amazing.
sorry. It has so many examples in it that I'm thinking about in the moment.
No, it's wonderful. No, it's absolutely perfect. I think it's been teasing people about, well, I want to know more about My Yellow Balloon. You keep saying you're going to talk about it and you haven't yet. So, yeah, I am very honored to have a copy of this book. And well, let me just hand it over to you, and you're the best one to talk about it and how you've used it within communities as well.
Yeah, it's it's something. So my yellow balloon started out, because I kind of told you about that. When I was 14 years old, I had an English teacher um, who was so amazing, and I was a grieving child, and there was no grief centers. There was no, I mean, we didn't talk about anything back then. And so she taught ninth grade literature through the eyes of death and dying, and ultimately through grief. And I was so scared when she announced that we were going to be doing this. Like I remember like getting ready to tear up and start crying, and I looked at my pencil, and I remember my pencil to this day on my notebook, and I just stared at it and willed myself not to cry, because I was going through so much. And yet I really rapidly learned that we weren't going to talk about my grief. We were talking about Romeo and Juliet. And we were talking about all the ninth grade stuff that we were reading. And yet it was through their eyes of their experiences that I didn't realize I was healing a big chunk of my own stuff. And so it culminated in a final assignment, and I was the only one that chose to write a children's book explaining death to them. It came to me in a daydream, and I only got so far. I only got to where I was in my own process, which was when Joey, the little boy, is like in a fetal position crying on the floor, because that's where I was. So I tacked on an ending that I hated and I gave it to her. I turned it in and she loved it. And I mean, loved it, planted a seed. We have to figure out how to publish this. So I always wanted to finish the ending because it just didn't feel right to me. So fast forward, um, 24 years, I was a mother of two little boys, and they were having, I was in a situation where I was not even in a million years thinking about my book. And I was driving, the kids were crying, and I saw this little boy looking into the lake and realized pretty quickly that it was the ending. And I pulled the car over and I had the daydream play out, and it was the ending. And I realized in that moment it was not about death at all. It was about loss. It was about how our losses transform us and grow us and change us and ultimately lead us to our deep selves, to our sage women, to who we are meant to be here on this planet. And then it also came to me as I was putting it together in um, three different meditations had insights for me in the book. So it came over 24 years in two daydreams and three meditations, and I feel like I took dictation. It's a children's picture book, and it has done things that I never thought in a million years that it would ever do. It helps people at all ages and stages, from the littlest to, you know, old people. Grief centers report that it's the demographic that's the biggest surprise is the 65 plus year old men. It's been used in veterans programs for families, but also veterans themselves to a lot of success. It's been utilized on the Mexican border with the kids there. That's been very successful. Um, it's used at the 9/11 Memorial Museum in their education department. Um, it's just it's been really phenomenal. ABA therapists that work with autistic kids, I don't know why, but I hear from them all the time that it's their favorite book, and I think it's because it's got like kind of almost like a process in it, in a sense that kind of happens. I don't know, but I think it's really ultimately because we all grieve and we all lose things and it hurts. And one of the things that I know about it also that I didn't realize when I wrote it is there's over 30 pages of ancient symbolism that when I was doing notes on all of my archetypes and doing symbolism work way after it was written, there I have 30 type pages of symbolism notes that are in this book that I had no idea I wrote in. No idea. Um, and so I it helps. I feel like it is a story that carries great medicine for people that need it. And I am so grateful that I got to be its mom. But that's all I am. I'm just its mom. It just came through me, and I am thankful for that. It's changed my trajectory, my life, in so many ways, and I'm grateful for that too, because now I get to be in a position where I get to help people through really hard things. And it is my honor and it's my calling to help people through times that are very difficult for them and be there with them. So yeah, so that's my yellow balloon. And I am so excited to thank you for letting me share that, because I do know it helps. It does also, I work with schools, I work with hospitals, I work with all kinds of different groups, I work with individuals, but it's a great tool for parents and kids. It puts you, it opens dialogue, but it also gives a common language to these experiences. And I think it's really important that we start naming, normalizing, understanding. It's a very gentle metaphor about a little boy who loses a balloon. And so it works for any loss at all, from a lost tooth or toy to a friend moving away to a pet dying to anything else after that. It's it works because it's a metaphor. So whatever you're going through personally, you place it on the metaphor and it works for that. I was at a gift show once selling them, and this woman who owned a gift shop came and like sobbed and sobbed and sobbed after I read it to her. And I asked her what was happening for her, if she would mind sharing. And she says, "No, I'm just going through empty nest syndrome. And it's the empty nest syndrome book. I'm buying it for everyone I know." And I remember just thinking, oh, thank God. Like, not thank God. I mean, that's terrible too. But I remember feeling like, oh, wow, like I didn't know that, you know. There's a group of Buddhist monks in Florida that have reached me that said this is a Buddhist book. I didn't know that either. So I just think it's something that yeah, it's very, very special in that way. And it was illustrated by the great Erwin Madrid, who worked at DreamWorks for 12 years. So it's really beautiful and lovely. And when you touch it, it actually feels like a balloon.
Mm.
And if you speak Spanish or have Spanish speakers, it is translated into Spanish as well. So,
It really is a very powerful, very beautiful, um, heart-touching book to read for sure. And I hear that you're going to give away a free copy to someone, to do a little prize draw for somebody to win a free copy signed by you, may I add?
yes, yes, I
Um,
will mail it to you, signed, um, in whatever way you would like, whoever you would like me to sign it for. So yes, we're going to do a drawing, and all you need to do is you email me. You can either do it on myyellowballoon.com. If you go into the author, there is a page there where you can contact me through that.
Also, I will put your email address in the show notes.
Yes, and my email address will be in the show notes.
Yeah, yeah. So they need to send you this email by Tuesday, the 15th of April this year,
Yes.
2025. So by Tuesday, the 15th of April, 2025, you need to send that email to Tiffany to be included in the draw. If you're
Yes,
listening to this after that time, there will also be Tiffany's website on there so that you'll still be able to go to that and contact her that way if you wish, or find out more about everything that she is up to or how she could help you if you are moving through grief right now and want some extra support.
absolutely. Absolutely. And again, just be gentle with you and um yeah. Oh,
Thank
Sally.
you, Tiffany. Thank you. It was such a beautiful time talking to you about grief. And isn't it, I don't know, it's not funny or strange or whatever, I'm lost for a word, but isn't it interesting how a topic like grief, which we can push to the side, we don't want to talk about it, we don't want to talk about death, we don't want to talk about grief, we don't want to talk about these things. Um, but when we do, how enriching it can be, how empowering, how healing it can be.
Yeah. And bonding.
Yes, connecting. Yes.
Yes, it is. There's something so connective about it. And so I just yeah, it would be so different in this world if we could just ask each other, how is your heart today?
Oh,
Instead of how are you? How are you? And then if they say anything other than fine, you're kind of like, looking at your watch and going, okay, how long is this gonna go?
Yeah.
But seriously, like I'm opposite of that. I always love it when people tell me, like, really, how are you? You know, like let's really connect. Let's really, and in these times, I think it's gonna make in a world of artificial intelligence, this genuine emotional intelligence is gonna be everything.
Yeah,
And connecting with each other is going to be everything.
absolutely. Yes,
Yeah.
totally agree. Yeah.
Yeah, you're not alone. If you're out there hurting, you're not alone. And yeah, yeah, hang in there. You'll get through.
Oh my word, Tiffany, this has just been the most beautiful chat. And I know that we've talked about this for quite a while now, but don't you feel that we should run a joint retreat together online initially? Because you're in the States, I'm in the UK at the moment, so it'd probably be easier if we just do it online. But what do you think of that? Like a grief retreat for all
I
different
am
stages of grief?
I am so down for that. I think that would be great because it will really extend the conversation and I think oh, it would just be amazing. Yeah, I'm excited about that.
Did
Yes.
we do it?
Let's do it.
Let's do
Let's
it.
do it. Let's do it.
Okay, here we are. You have you have witnessed this moment of decision. Um, so if you are interested, please just drop, well, myself or Tiffany, if you're emailing Tiffany anyway to be part of the prize draw, then do that. But if you email me, my email address is in the show notes, and say that you're interested in an online retreat with the two of us, then I will pop you onto a list so that we can keep you informed of when it happens and all the details. How about that?
Yes. Yes. And please come because I know that you might hear the words grief retreat and get scared and think, oh, that no, I don't want to do that. But honestly, it'll be magical because grief is transformational and it is the biggest transformation agent we have.
Yes.
And so I would look at it through those lenses. If the word grief is just like getting stuck in your craw, which it does for some people, but just know that it will be a place of being held, being seen, and it will be really lovely.
Yeah, and
So
for all stages, it doesn't matter, and all forms of grief as well. And,
yeah,
I'll be talking, and certainly, menopause will come into it, and the grief of, like we were talking about before, of losing the way our bodies were, or the image of ourself, or who we are now. Or so it's going to be all types of grief, which we face a lot. We face almost every day, really, I suppose, aspects of grief of this. If you think about it as a letting go, a transition phase.
yeah. Remember, if you've ever been disappointed, if you've ever had a change in your life, or if you've ever been in a transition, this retreat's for you.
Yeah.
And it's no wonder that we call menopause the change, right?
Hmm.
And change is a loss experience.
Exactly.
So this is a perfect retreat for anybody who has had those feelings or been through those experiences.
And it will be deeply connecting for sure. We will create a beautiful circle of like-minded soul sisters where we can be in a really safe place for this. That will be our priority, is to create this as a safe space, as a place where you can connect deeply with others. If you're feeling lonely, if you're feeling lost, it will be perfect for that too. And really just sort of a beautiful, magical, honest time.
Yes. So that is your invitation. Make sure you RSVP yes and join us, and we will keep you posted on how it's coming along. And I just can't wait to see you if I know you and meet you if I haven't. So, yes, and I would love to. Can I read one more thing on the
Oh,
end of
yes.
this?
Yeah, 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 go for it.
Okay. Um, this is by Bianca Sparacino. I promise that you are growing even in the dark. To be human is to understand that happiness isn't constant. But to be human is to understand that neither is sorrow or grief or heartache. To be human is to feel it all, to welcome the lessons that come with the dark days, to welcome the softness that comes from the lightness of what saves you. To be human is to try with every inch of your patchwork soul to be proud of who you are, to care, to heal, to be your own home, even on the days you don't like yourself, even on the days where it doesn't come naturally. To be human is to grow in the ups and to grow in the downs. So keep growing, keep growing.
Oh, I love that. You know, that opening line about you're growing in the dark. Oh, that really got me.
I, I promise that you are growing even in the dark. Yes.
That is, oh, that's beautiful. What a perfect note to end on. Thank you,
Yes.
Tiffany.
Thank you so much. Soulful menopause has been life-changing for me. So thank you for all your work in the world. You make a huge difference, and I appreciate you so much.
Likewise, soul sister, for sure.
Oh.
To find out more about how you can live a soulful menopause, please visit soulfulmenopause.com. I'm really looking forward to being with you again soon. Bye for now.